what's on you?
So I'm Michael Strasser. I'm the CEO and part owner of Alpha Funding. I do have a podcast, but I don't have an OnlyFans. So that's what I got going.
Yet.
I started doing this 12 years ago. Dave Hansel brought me into Alpha. And, I was listening to your story and to Sam's story. And, the most exciting thing about real estate and how it ties into myself being part of Alpha was I did nothing with real estate before I started doing this. And that was 12 years ago, and now I run a real estate lending company. I was actually in radio, because I have the face for it, and then I did some TV stuff, and then I got laid off in the middle of the Great Recession, so there was no jobs, and then suddenly I found myself at Alpha Funding, and in that journey, I rose to run and own this company. So real estate is the ultimate equalizer, and I feel that very strongly, and that's why I'm really excited to be in front of all of you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And again, man, it's just like, you just never know where your life will take you, right?
Absolutely.
And in real estate, it's like, there's always an opportunity to get in somewhere, and you're another case in point. So now this first question is going to seem like makes a lot more sense, right, when I'm talking to you. So, all right, let's just say, all right, Michael, I want to start investing, right? I want to start investing, and maybe I want you to give me some money, right? What do you look for when deciding whether to fund a deal? And what makes you say no instantly?
Absolutely. So I was actually talking about some of this before we started. Everybody, they look at what we do in lending and hard money lending and private lending, and they go, you just look at the properties, right? And that's not what I just do. Property is really important, but for every good deal, you need a good sponsor and a good asset. You could have the best deal in the world, and it looks great on paper, but if you're unable to execute, it's a terrible deal. It's just the way it's gonna go.
What's a sponsor?
The sponsor's the borrower. Somebody coming to us, they're gonna borrow the money, they're gonna execute the deal. All of you who wanna go buy a property, you're a sponsor, right? So what we do is we have to look at both of those pieces. Primarily what we do at Alpha are construction loans, so we're lending money to help you purchase a property, give you the money to rehab it, and then allow you to either sell it or rent it. But that's the biggest risk, right? It's the execution. It's getting from buying it to actually fixing it and then being able to sell it. So that's why, what we're doing is we're always looking at both pieces. Now that is also the thing that makes me say no to a deal right away. Experience is important. That doesn't mean you have to have it in order to get into a deal, but maybe experience is the wrong word, maybe wherewithal is the right word. I've had a lot of borrowers come to me in my 12 years at Alpha who are like, I've never done this before. I would like to get into real estate investing, and I decided that I wanted to build a 6,000 square foot house, and I've never done this before. That is a huge red flag. And I look at that, that's part experience, and that's part wherewithal. And those are that to me is always the biggest thing that stops me. For most other things, there are ways to overcome the challenges. Even that, there's actually even ways to overcome that challenge. Your credit's low. You can work on that, or you can partner. You need money. I'm sitting up here, I'm one way, there's 1,000 other ways to get enough money to help you get into a deal. Even I want to build a 6,000 square foot, luxury house. If you look around this room right now, there's probably somebody here who could help you do it. So, but that wherewithal of knowing, one, what your limitations are, and two, your experience are the big red flags for me.
Awesome. And case in point, man, you see a deal, a sponsor, it's like, all right, look, I have no experience in doing this. Then you go to somebody who has experience like Sam. Hey, Sam, I heard you speaking. Hey, I think you're going to be able to help me qualify for this. And then you just work out a deal with that person. Remember, guys, remember this. It's never a lack of resources. It's always a lack of resourcefulness, right? They're the people that are successful. They just find a way out of no way, right? It's like, don't tell me why not. Tell me how can I make this happen, right? So that's just, I'm going to give you a real life example of if you're sitting here and you're like, man, that's me. I haven't done a lot of this stuff, but I can find deals, right? You partner with somebody who has the experience. All right, next. What separates the investors who grow from deal to deal versus the ones who stay stuck in default?
All right, this is an easy one. Dave said it before, but it is analysis paralysis, right? So I've been to a lot of meetups, and I've met a lot of people. And to this day, there's a group in North Jersey where I still meet the same guy who still has not done a deal in 10 years, right? And that is the difference, right? Like, you need to be prepared, right? If you figure out where the money's gonna come from, because it's out there, the type of properties you want, the people you need to partner with, all those pieces, and you find the deal, you have to jump on it. You have to get in there. Listen, it's gonna be scary, right? If it was easy, literally everybody would do it, and there'd be nothing for the rest of us, and nobody would want to sit here because it's just the thing that everybody does, right? So the biggest piece are the people who see the deals, who put all the pieces together, and then never go for it. And you have to go for it. If you spend all this time educating yourself, you spend all this time meeting the right people, you're here right now, you have to go. Sam was saying it before, he's gonna go 150 miles an hour. You have to have a little bit of that, right? But you also have to have the other part. You have to put all the pieces together. But you have to be able to go, or else you'll never know if you can do it. And it's gonna be scary, and hopefully you win more times than you lose. Hopefully you win all the time. But there's always gonna be that chance, and that's part of what makes real estate investing exciting and lucrative, but you have to be able to get out there.
Next question. What are the different types of financing available to real estate investors, and which one allows people to get started with little to no money out of pocket, if there is any?
All right, so the different types of financing. Well, there's obviously what I do. There's credit cards, there's piggy banks, there's mom and dad, there's your brother, there's your cousin. There's infinite ways to finance. There's infinite ways to get money. There's money everywhere. Ask the person next to you if they have money and they want to do a deal with you right now. Maybe you'll find somebody. But there are more sophisticated ways. There are ways to do it. At Alpha, what we typically do is we're typically financing a part of the purchase price and all of the construction on a deal up to a certain amount based on the values of the property when they're done. But there's also ways to leverage things like business lines of credit that give you the upfront money, your initial down payment, as well as working capital in order to get into a deal with me, borrow money from me, and leverage that as well. I love that strategy because it's your own money in the end, right? You're borrowing from yourself. But that's one strategy. Also, like I said, you can go to friends and family, you can meet people and raise money. But I think the business line of credit strategy is so great because you have to answer to yourself at the end of the day, and that you're doing it, it's your money, right? Like, you're gonna live and die by the money you raise, the money you put out, the money you borrow, and how you get it done. And at the end of the day, that is a way of doing it with almost none of your own money out of pocket. Because if you go out and you raise $75, $100, or $150,000 in business lines of credit, that's still no money out of your pocket, technically, right? As long as you're able to get out there and get the deals done. So that is a way to basically 100% finance a deal. So that to me is one of the strongest solutions, and we're seeing it every day. I have borrowers who I've been working with for 10 years who have gone out now and raised $100,000 to $300,000 this way and are killing it because a lot of that money you can even get from 0% and then on traditional bank lines in the 8 and 9% range. So there's a lot to be said about that specific method of doing it and basically having it with no money out of your own pocket.
I'm going to give you guys a real life example on how not to do it. I was in Texas.
That's the best way, right?
One of my mentors hosted this real estate event in Texas, and he was there, and he had all these panelists speaking, and he was like, I want to let everybody know something right here. He's like, if you have an LLC, business LLC, right now, and it's over X amount of years, like, you can get a business line of credit on it, right? And I was like, if your credit's good. So I'm sitting there, and I hit up my guy at TD Bank. I'm like, yo, dude, you never told me about this shit. I was like, can I get a line of credit? And he was like, yeah, what do you want? I said, what do you mean, yeah, what I want? Like, you should have told me about this. So at the same time, it was a perfect storm. This is when like Yellowstone was hot, right? And I had this deal, this lead on a farm. And I was like, man, this farm looks like a damn Yellowstone house, all this stuff, and I wanted to make it a weddings and event space. So what I did was, and I just figured this shit out. It could have been a win, but it wasn't. So I was like, all right, got the line of credit. And that's just from right now, taking action. Like some of you right now have an LLC, over 2 years old, maybe over 1, and if you have good credit, you can get 50 grand. You can get like right now. And because I do what I do, I was sitting at that event and text them right there. And sure enough, got a line of credit. And then sure enough, I hit up one of my other bankers and I was like, look, man, and dude, I just wrote out a business plan. And I was like, look, I'm pretty sure that this is what, like, This wasn't anything crazy. This is how crazy you can get. And sure enough, I bought the damn farm, right? And it didn't turn out to be a wedding. It was not allowed at that time. But what I did learn was the whole strategy at that time where you can get money on LLCs and you can invest in real estate with it. Now, hopefully nobody from TD Bank is here. But I'm saying that that's a strategy right now, and that was a case in point where I bought that damn thing off of business lines of credit.
It's actually even easier now. You don't even need to have it a year. It's the longer you have that LLCs, the more money is available to you. You can make an LLC last week and still be able to get $50,000 to $75,000 in cash in like 2 or 3 weeks, right? So it's even easier than it was when you bought.
For some of you right now, this night is worth $100,000 for you, right? That's real facts right there. Or check this out, right? Maybe you're like, dude, I don't have an LLC. I talk to so many people at LLCs, and they have no idea that they can do this. Absolutely. So you'd be like, look, I found this deal. Hold on, Bob, right? I want you to invest in this property with me. I'm going to be able to get access to the down payment, right? Do you have an LLC? All right, cool. I'm going to connect you with this person. We're going to get $100,000. You know, you can play this game. Like, you can figure all this out. But I really want you guys to understand that that is a strategy to get access to capital right now if you don't have any. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, and just to belabor that a little bit further, we actually work with a local Philadelphia-based company that helps our borrowers do it. So if you want more information, you can ask me about it. They're amazing. They're part of, I think, are they part of your group?
Who are they?
Nick DeFredo.
I was about to say, I was hoping you weren't talking about anybody else but Nick, because he's the one who referred you here.
Nikki's
I was like, damn, you better be talking about Nick.
Yeah, but they're local, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They've been doing this more than a decade.
MB Capital, right? It's Nick and
Capital.
Eric Moss.
And they do an incredible job. You can reach out and we'll help put it all together for you and help you get invested.
Awesome. All right. What red flags do you see in deals that even experienced investors sometimes miss?
Over improving properties, right? I think it's really easy right now. You know, home prices are so high and values are so high. And what I see a lot of when I see budgets come through my underwriters is that people are doing a lot, right? And it's important when you're looking at these deals to say, what does the market want or what would I want? And you never want to rehab or build a house that you want to live in because you're always going to spend more money than you're supposed to, right? So I think the biggest red flag we see right now with ever increasing prices for homes is just a lot of over improvement from borrowers looking to get into deals. And they're sometimes $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 more than they should spend. And that's just eating right into the profitability, not just of their pockets, but of the deal. And that's a really easy way to put in a budget that's too overinflated, that's doing too much, and make that deal not work, right? So that's the biggest red flag I'm seeing a lot of right now.
And if you're like, I want to go out and find some deals, you see these wholesalers or whoever putting stuff in Facebook groups, this 80 grand, 80 grand in repairs. Like, never go off of what they say the repairs are going to be. So from your experience, let's just say you're about waiting a deal. Like, what type of percentage should we add on top of what we think the rehab cost is going to be to keep us safe from doing that?
Ooh, I mean, that's a hard one. I think you almost want to go in the opposite direction. Like, what's the minimum you want to make on a deal? Because saying how much you put on top, every property is really unique, right? And all of them need more than you think. The house next door to a house that was just rehabbed could need $50,000 less or $100,000 more. So it's really hard to look at it from that way. But I go the opposite direction. It's like, what do you want to make on the deal? Do you want to make 15% in profit? Do you want to make 20% in profit? And then you look at that number and you say, what's the most I could put into this property and still make that money? And if that still works, then it's still a good deal, right? Even when you factor in a wholesaler, even when you factor in those pieces. When it starts to get really tight, right, that's when you have to say to yourself, I don't know, right? Like, you always want to make sure you can get to your end goal comfortably, right? Because that's what I'm going to look at too, right? I'm going to look at a deal and we're going to underwrite it and evaluate it. And the deal has to make money also, right? When we're looking at it. We're invested in the success of the borrowers. Like, I don't run the business to take properties away from anybody. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to see every borrower succeed, get to the end of a deal, and make a lot of money. And it's worked for us because 70 to 80% of every deal I do in a month is from somebody who's already done a deal with me. And that only comes from investing in that success. So I always think looking at it backwards and how much do I want to comfortably make on this deal, and being able to find the numbers in between that get me there and get me there comfortably. And as long as it still works, I think that's the best way to do it.
And that's why in the beginning we talk about the importance of your team, right? So if you're newer, you're like, man, how do I know if this is a good deal? Well, if you build the right team around you, like if I go to Michael and be like, hey man, I'm looking at this deal, remember, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good deal? If you have the right team around you, you will have a few layers of people giving their honest opinion. So it's not, you're not just worrying about you're on this island, right? Even, when Mark was up here, having the right title partner, right? Some of these deals, I'll give you some crazy ass story. This guy on my team found this deal. He does a lot in Camden, so there's some wild stuff over there. So he's like, dude, and this is he didn't use any of these title companies in here. So it was like an off-market deal. Somebody sold one of his buyers. So he's like, dude, we went to the title company. We closed, right? We go in to do a walkthrough. I'm there with my client, and he was like, these two big dudes walk in the house, and he was like, he looks at me. He was like, what are you doing? This is our house. And he's like, what are you talking about? This is our house. Don't you know, like some random person like fraudulently signed saying like crazy stuff. Bottom line is, if you have the right title, some of these, it's not like Instagram easy, right? Where everybody thinks, you see all these flips, oh my God, so-and-so is killing it. They're making all this money because they're posting all this about flips or whatever. Like, having that right team, there's some stuff that can go wrong. You could be, next thing you know, you're under contract with a house, 20 grand comes back in back taxes that your title company found, that now it's not a deal anymore, right? So that's why it's so important to have the right team, because they are also multiple layers of underwriting to keep you safe, if that makes sense.
I mean, absolutely. I'll give you just a quick anecdote to that for a second about how we can help you figure out deals. So before I was the CEO of Alpha, I was the underwriter here at Alpha. And I got a reputation with one of my borrowers who was actually Philly bound. He was an Army guy, right? And he used to call me Dr. No. And the part of that was he was still in the military. He was at Fort Dix, but he lived in Philly, and he would bring me all these Philly deals, and none of them worked. Every single one of them was upside down in profit. So I used to just, every time he'd show it to me, I'd just be like, no. And we did this for months, right? Until eventually he found me a deal, and I was like, yes. And I think he fell over in his chair when it happened, or he crashed an airplane, I don't know, something like that. But that's what we're due to help. Like, I was there to help him, even though there was a lot of no's. I got him to a yes where he made a lot of money. He ended up buying like 15 properties in Philadelphia. He kept half of them. He retired his mom into one of the properties that he did, and he went on and he has a great retirement portfolio, and he left the Army, and all is great, right? Sometimes you need the no's. Sometimes you need to have the other set of eyes. And when we're looking at it and we're saying no, it's never just because we like to say no. Like, my business only works when I make loans. Every time I say no is just time and money that I didn't get to get back or make, right? So I'm invested in every time a borrower or somebody comes to Alpha, I'm invested in making it work, right? So sometimes you have to take the no's along with the yeses, and we're here to help with that.
I do want to give a moment of silence to that realtor, because he did pass away. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, last question. What's one shift in lending, underwriting, or capital markets that investors need to prepare for in the next 12 months?
So, this is a tough one. This is like, shaking an 8-ball or, massaging a crystal ball or something and trying to tell you what's going to happen. First, I'm going to say real estate's really resilient, right? When COVID started, there was definitely a lot of talk between my peers in lending and real estate that like, wow, this is going to be the end of us. And it wasn't, right? And real estate prevailed. And there's definitely some stress on the system right now because there's not a lot of supply, but there's also opportunity there. I think the things that we have to watch out for is just, it's the scary word of economics. Like, we have to see what's happening kind of in the government and with the larger financial institutions, because it trickles down, right? Being able to buy properties cash and fix them up is great, but you need buyers. So you need buyers who can qualify to buy the houses from you. So watching what's going to happen in the bond markets and on Wall Street and mortgage rates are really important, even outside of just the investing part. Like, it's great to be an investor, it's great to find the amazing deal and fix it up, but if there's nobody at the end of the day to buy the properties from you, that's gonna be a problem. So I think that's the big thing to watch out for right now, is kind of making sure that on the whole, the system kind of stays on the tracks and still makes it easy and affordable for buyers to get into homes, because that's going to be the biggest piece here. And then also watching on the rental market as well. You know, that's, you know, for people who can't buy, now you're saying, okay, I'm going to do a lot of rents, right? But how far are rents going? What's the affordability piece of that? Are rents keeping up with the pricing of homes, right? Because that's going to be a big part of it too. If you're buying stuff at such high prices and you can't bring the rents high enough to fill them, that's going to lead to a secondary effect of where you can't sell the house because there's nobody to buy it, and you can't rent it because the rents that you need to make it work, there's nobody able to pay it. So those are the big things I think to watch out for in the next 12, 18 months.
Awesome. Well, Michael, you did an incredible job. Everybody give him a round of applause. And then now we will bring up the whole panel again. There we go. We'll bring David. We'll bring Sam now. Guys, it is Q&A, right? So this is specifically for you guys. I want to get you as much value as I possibly can. Any questions you have, let's get them answered. I saw my man Big Jack over there first.